Wayward Courier, Chapter 26. The dull, cold gray stone of the changeling hive was far from inviting at best of times. The remains of a recent battle, the broken bodies and blood of dozen warrior-caste changelings were littered around what could have been reasonably been called a throne room. The queen, lying against the wall she had been flung against, watched in fear and confusion as the two warriors responsible for the destruction around her glared at each other. "You monster!" the heavily armored stallion hissed, cradling an injured leg, supported by one of three similar armored ponies. Despite a large number of assurances, the heavily enchanted metal had been close to useless against his former companion's weapon. "Really?" came the reply. "You call me a monster, after what you nearly did." The Bibdeid's deep voice was muffled slightly by the face-obscuring helmet, but one could still clearly make out the tranquility that was so out of place. "That's not what we're here for." "No, that's not what you're here for," came the angry reply. "I'm here for," he hissed ominously as he rose to his hooves, horn glowing, "is to kill her, and you won't stop me." "Magical power armor?" "Magical power armor," Thomas repeated. "That's what you're wearing." "I'm not sure that's the right term," Shining Armor replied as they exited the forge area several hours later. Ironshod had insisted on investigating the Courier's Saturnite plating and Kevlar body armor. The captain was still fully encased in metal. "It actually doesn't weigh anything." "What? Really?" The Courier seemed more shocked about that than anything else so far. "And this stuff weighs about 30 pounds!" he exclaimed, gesturing to his duster and armor plating. The unicorn chuckled. "It's not weightless, but the enchantments make it feel it like that." Thomas grumbled to himself as they entered the castle about the unfairness of the situation. "Being a ghoul doesn't seem so bad anymore," he muttered. Shining didn't say anything. The last time he had asked for clarification on something called FEV, it had left a foul taste in his mouth and the possibility of nightmares. He had no intentions of making the same mistake again. They attracted a large number of stares from both servants and other guards. It was quite clear that this had been a very secretive affair, as more than a few thought it was nothing more than a set of animated armor. When they entered the throne room, Celestia, listening to a noble's droning, everything seemed to stop. The stallion gawked at the pair, as did every guard. "Your Highness, what is that?" No one knew if he was referring to Shining Armor or the Courier. The set of armor held a hoof out towards and a salute, forming a 135-degree angle with the floor. "Knight Captain Shining Armor, Your Highness," he said, his voice full of military devotion. "Show off," Thomas muttered. "I am here to report that the new knight armor is fully functional and ready for field use," the stallion continued. "That's what the whole group of soldiers and that special armor is called. Knights. It was a prototype. It's not like they could just give it to every soldier. Well, completely covered in metal, that is. It was kind of intimidating. I don't want to imagine an entire army of those fuckers. Then again, I've seen elite rangers. Those guys are terrifying. Hey, at least I checked. The Brotherhood needs power armor. Rangers don't." Celestia really didn't appreciate us just walking in either. So, me and the captain ended up being escorted out of there. I think she gave him an order, though, because he went back to the armory. I got intercepted by one of those purple armored ponies. "She wants to see you now," the bat-winged pony said. "Oh, thanks. What's your name? Thomas looked around when he didn't get an answer, and was a little worried to find that the pony had vanished. Did one of them get my stealth boys? He wondered out loud, deciding to go through his belongings. Later, he had opened the door and walked in. He'd been in Princess Luna's room before, but now it was much more illuminated, allowing him to properly take in everything. Not that the extra illumination meant much, as it was still dark. "Luna?" he asked. "Ah, Thomas, I am glad you come." There was a stiffness to her voice, one that told her that words didn't. "It's about last night, isn't it?" Thomas blinked. "Only last night? Wow, feels a lot longer ago." "Yes, about that," Luna muttered, raising from her bed. She opened her mouth several times, as though trying to find the right words, but gave up every time. After close to 5 minutes of standing in awkward silence, the courier sighed. "Luna, I was drunk. So were you. There's nothing to be upset about." "But there is," Luna argued. "I never meant for things to go that far." "Yeah, I kinda got that feeling," Thomas replied uneasily. "I didn't exactly want things to get to that point either." He brought a hand to his face and laughed darkly. "Wow. I slept with so many people, and only now I actually care." Luna couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. "How many?" She shook her head. "On second thought, I don't want to know." "Look, can we talk about this later?" Thomas asked, looking uncomfortable. "I don't want to be thinking about this when I get my transportal plunder back." The alicorn scowled at him. "Fine, but don't expect to be able to dodge this subject again." "I don't plan on it," the man smirked, holding up his hands innocently. A second later, his face turned serious. "Look, I'll need to know what I'm getting into, where the changelings live, what kind of resistances to expect, that sort of thing. You'd be better off asking our intelligence staff, but I believe I can give you a rough overview." Luna walked over her room and levitated a folder. "Understand that until recently, the changelings were ignored as recently harmless. The attack on the wedding was the first sign of aggression ever recorded." Wait. Wedding? Thomas tilted his head. This was the first he had ever heard of a wedding. "Yes, their queen led an assault on my niece's wedding. It was only through her actions and those of her husband's that they were repelled." Luna shook her head. "I would have helped, but 24 changelings managed to stop me from getting there in time." Thomas pondered this fact. Evidently, these changelings were more dangerous than he had first thought. Then again, the same could be said for him. "Sounds like a challenge," he muttered. "Who's this queen?" "Chrysalis," Luna scowled returned. "A formidable foe, but she is likely weakened. Given how you fought against my guard earlier, I can't imagine she'd be too much of a threat." "If she can use magic, one lucky shot is all it'll take," the courier said darkly. "It probably won't kill me, but I don't have enough rataway if things turn to shit." "All changelings are capable of basic telekinesis, while the larger ones are known to utilize bolts of magic for offensive purposes." Thomas turned around slowly as he summed up all he had been told in one word. Fuck. Oh man, did I regret going into that place. Absolutely nothing like the nest of diamond dogs I cleared out earlier. I'm amazed I didn't drop dead of radiation poisoning when we were done. Oh yeah, I had backup. The next morning, shortly after breakfast cut short, Shining Armor introduced Thomas to the other ponies who would be joining them. "Unicorns?" he asked. "Isn't that dangerous?" "I've instructed them about the risks. and they're willing to do whatever it takes," the captain answered. Before them stood 3 unicorns, wearing the full plate armor of the knights. The only way to distinguish them at the glance was horn and tail color. One had an ice blue horn and a tail as white as fresh snow. The second had a red horn and a tail that looked like fire than hair, while the third had a dark gray horn and a deep violet tail. "I swear, this is like the Brotherhood all over again," Thomas muttered.